Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be sharing my next interview on the channel. Thanks for visiting my channel Free Your Finance. My name's Gary and I talk about investing, property and the journey towards financial independence. If this sounds like something you may be interested in watching a little more about, please hit the subscribe button below. So I regularly share video interviews that I've done with various people on different journeys and paths towards financial independence. A lot of the people I've spoken to so far are using methods such as index investing and the stock market to reach their financial goals. In today's video, I'm going to chat to someone that is using buy-to-let property. Now, I was really excited about today's call. I am a buy-to-let investor myself, so it's something very close to my heart. So when I realised I wanted to get someone on with sort of buy-to-let knowledge, I thought about some of the content creators out there, and there was one that very clearly sprung to mind. It is, of course, Justin Wilkins. He has been putting out some awesome content on YouTube over the last few months, and it's been really interesting listening to his journey so far. I asked Justin if he'd be happy to come on and have a chat with me, and luckily he said yes. Hi guys, so today we have Justin joining us. He has got an awesome YouTube channel that I come across probably about 3 or 4 months back now. He is pursuing his financial independence through the source of buy-to-let properties, which is something I'm really interested in as a buy-to-let investor myself. So first of all, Justin, do you mind just doing a little bit of an introduction about yourself, where you're based and what you're currently doing for employment?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come on different channels. And yeah, thanks very much. I've been a follower on yours as well, watching your videos. So, but yeah, I'm based in the South. I'm a new property investor, bought the first one last year, although I've sort of owned property for probably about 5 years, which is my own home. And yeah, I used to be an estate agent, but not anymore. Did that for 7 years. And now, I work in sales for like a trade exhibition, organizer, which is up in London. Obviously not a great year for us at the moment, but that's my 9 till 5. And yeah, the goal is just to eventually phase that out as my income through property and, doing flips then outweighs the work that I'm doing basically. But at the moment, it just makes sense to do both, and having a job's good for getting mortgages. So.
Yeah, definitely. So you've already sort of answered my next question then, as what introduced you to investing in property. Obviously being an estate agent was a great help. Was it from seeing the sort of deals available in the work you did, or was there something else that sort of inspired you to invest?
Yeah, it definitely was from working that job, but it took a while to click, to be honest. When I think back now, and I did it for 7 years, I wish I'd caught on quicker. But at the time, I was more interested in just making commission, making a quick buck and spending it. But no, definitely after a while, it did certainly click and resonated that, certain people or developers were turning up, and they didn't have 9 to 5 jobs. They worked on their own clock, their own diary, and they'd turn up in relatively nice cars, Range Rovers and what have you. And I thought, yeah, I could get a bit of this life.
Definitely. So watching your channel, I watch through a lot of your videos, and you seem very knowledgeable now on the buy-to-let sort of market, and you go through some really great points. I saw your interest-only lease, repayment mortgage video, all this sort of stuff. Did you have to do any sort of training courses to learn this stuff, or is it something you're sort of self-taught from watching YouTube and things like that?
No, I've self-taught as much as possible. Obviously, learned a certain amount in the estate agency world, and I often get asked if that was a worthwhile experience for me. And the answer is always yes, because when it comes to like working with solicitors, surveyors, estate agents, and even owners, the psychology of what an owner might take in terms of an offer and so on, that was so useful to learn and just experience for all those years. But in terms of actual buy-to-let knowledge, you don't actually have much as an estate agent, other than what people need as a deposit and what kind of yield they want. That's all you really know. Whereas when I then switched my mindset to the investment world and the development world, it opens up this whole new world as such. And I've learned as much as I can myself, through audiobooks, podcasts, obviously got YouTube, and also reading as well. I read quite a lot as well, but yeah, YouTube was a big one for me. And actually that was also at the same time where I realized that there's lots of big developers sharing their journey, but not any small ones, not any new ones. And that's kind of led me to doing my thing.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot and ask, but is there any sort of top resources that you'd recommend? Any sort of top podcasts or audiobooks or anything like that you've really enjoyed recently?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'd go with, in terms of like podcasts for property, the one that there's two that I've always listened to, but one in particular, Inside Property Investing. I'm sure everyone has listened, but over the years, that's been such a vital part of my learning and seeing in the different strategies and what have you. So that's a great podcast. In terms of books, I always recommend, Property Magic, because it's just such a basic fundamentals book, but everyone can learn what they need. And then also mindset books. I believe it or not, Donald Trump, the Art of the Deal. That's a book that I recommend, and people raise their eyebrows when I say that because it's Donald Trump. But in terms of big thinking mentality and property and negotiating deals, that's a fantastic book. I love to recommend that one. And, people like David Goggins as well, where, just learning about, callousing your brain and just, putting in hard work for the first few years of building up your property empire and what have you. So.
Yeah. So next up, we're going to go on to your current portfolio. Where are you invested right now? And how many have you got? And what's the eventual goal? How many would you like? Is it just forevermore? Do you hope to take over the world?
Who knows? It's small at the moment. I own my own home with my partner, which is, a property that we have down south. And we've got a buy-to-let up in Liverpool. So I went up to Liverpool because the prices are better, the yields are better. There is potential for capital appreciation. Who knows? But hopefully that could take off in the few years if it grows anything like Birmingham and Manchester have over previous years. But in the meantime, the cash flow on those properties is very good. So that's the reason I took a bit of a chance in investing 5 hours away from home, bought in Liverpool. I would like to continue buying a few more up there for definite. But I'm also, so what I'd like to do in terms of my overall, it would be to create, in the region of £3,000 to £5,000 per month. I don't need 20, 30,000 a month. Some people have big lofty goals, and I really, really appreciate, and admire that they do that. But for me, I just want to achieve that financial freedom kind of status as such.
Yeah.
More in the sense of I just want independence and to be comfortable to do what I enjoy doing, which is, I want to do property development, which is what my grandfather did and my family have done. And I want to be, document it on YouTube. So if I could have the passive income in the background, as I say, ideally to start with 3,000 a month, that might be between 10 and 12 buy-to-lets that gets me there. And then do the occasional actual development site, 1 or 2, maybe a year at max. And that would keep me busy, I'm sure. I'm actually, funnily enough, we're in the process of buying another property down south, actually. It's an old granny's bungalow that we're going to renovate and hopefully flip on as a way of generating more cash for ourselves and obviously work our way up the ladder, but also to re-inject back into the buy-to-let business.
Yeah.
So
you've introduced about 10 questions, unfortunately, mate. So I hope you haven't got anything planned today. So first thing was about what you were saying about Liverpool. I just wanted to first of all say, I'll probably put a link somewhere for Justin's video where he went up to Liverpool. All I can say is go and watch it. It was really awesome. It was how I found Justin, and it was really interesting seeing his mindset and what he does when he goes to see a property. And yeah, I highly recommend go and watch it.
Thanks.
I work a lot in Liverpool. I photograph large conferences up there in I forget what they call their arena, Echo Arena, I think.
Oh there. Yeah.
And funny enough, I've sort of listened to talks from the mayor, the Liverpool mayor, and he sort of says some of the statistics. And Liverpool does sound like a very exciting place right now. And I agree with every point. I really do think that potentially even in the next 10 years, it could really boom. So, and I know from watching your videos, you can get some ridiculous deals up there, for what I'm buying a sort of 2-bed flat down here for, you're probably buying about 4 houses up there, so it's quite scary. But the next thing I wanted to sort of ask you about was with regards to going to Liverpool, how did you find sort of getting reliable tradespeople, getting your sort of manager? I see in your video, I know you get it managed. How did you find a good, reliable managing agent? As I know from past experience myself, they can be a bit touch and go sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all learned by doing from me, and whilst I've built some good connections through social media, it's always an ongoing battle and process. In terms of, when I bought it, the actual renovation works were quite what I would consider minimal. It didn't need, full back to brick works. It didn't need loads of plumbing or electrical work. So I went in with my parents who are, well experienced in doing up property, and we just spent quite a few days up there, slept on the floor in the sitting room, and just went, got to work and tried to remedy all the issues that it had, and plaster and paint and just basic things, and really save myself as much money as possible, rather than I could have maybe got someone to do the work for me and I'd have spent between 3,000 and 4,000, but we went up and we did it for about 500 quid. As I grow and get bigger, of course, I won't be doing that. But to start with, number one, I wanted to live and breathe it. So, didn't need tradespeople, but as I say, through building my social network, hopefully in the future, I'll be able to, use tradespeople from the connections I've made. Yeah. And in terms of managing agent, I actually just went with the agent that I bought through, which is a company up in Liverpool who are quite well established. And, I'm going to be sticking with them for the time being, but I'll be honest, it's been a rocky journey. Yeah. To start with. They were very slow and inefficient, and then I had to give them a bit of a kick. Then we got there and they got me, really good tenants and a really good price. And then, it was really good it has been still really good for a good 6-7 months. And I was very appreciative to get full rent this year and everything. But, and then there's been a couple of things that have come up recently, which I'll share soon. But, again, it's just when you're working with someone, it's not your property and it's not their property and you're working through someone and I'm away at a distance, which is one of the negatives. You really have to have good communication. So, but we'll see how we get on over the next few months.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had the exact same experience. I used to have my properties managed back in the day, once upon a time. And unfortunately, I had the similar thing. And I have to admit, the best thing I've ever done is going self-managed. But I have the privilege, and I'm lucky enough that my properties are all within now. I've just moved, but half an hour from me. It's not quite easy just sort of pop into Liverpool, is it, to go and check in a tenant or something? So
not if they want help with a light bulb or fixing a tap.
Exactly. But thanks for your honest answer, and I look forward to seeing the updates with regards to that. So the next question I wrote down is, so my channel is all about sort of reaching financial independence, but albeit through many different methods. What made you pick property as your vehicle towards reaching your financial goals instead of other options such as maybe investing in the stock market?
Yeah, good. I like this question. For me, I mean, it's really cheesy, but it's like property it's like a real thing that you can see, you can touch, well, I guess in America they call it real estate because it's a real thing, isn't it? Yeah. And it's a really cheesy answer, but for me, that is one reason, is that it's just there. When you invest in a stock, you don't ever see what the stock is. Obviously, you're investing into a company which you see grow, but there's nothing that you can physically hold to start with. And the other reason is just that's what I grew up around with, as I say, my grandfather, he was a big inspiration to my development journey and everything. And he was a, property developer, just on a small scale, kind of doing like 2 or 3 sites at a time. But, then my parents, they've always done up properties. So for me, I think it was just transferred down to me that property is the right way to go. You only have to look at where values have come from, property values from 1970 to 1990 to 2020, so it's incredible really how much things grow in those times. So that's for me why property. But that's not to say that I don't do the other bits. I have a small amount of money in comparison to property, but I have a small amount of money in stocks. Yeah. And I just, I pick 1 or 2 companies that I might invest with for the next 5 to 10 years. And then I also do like funds, I run an ETF fund, just like something that I will pay into per month over the next 20 years probably, and try and compound some money, because I do believe in having a few options and diversification. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's surprising how much I can take from that answer into my own sort of answer. Whereas you were inspired very much by your granddad, mine was my dad, and it was very much bricks and mortar is the safest bet, Gary. Get your money in property as soon as possible. Interesting to hear. So this question we've already sort of roughly answered, but it'll be interesting to talk just about it. So what is the end goal? I know you've already spoken about sort of reaching a monthly cash flow, which I think is the best answer you could possibly, that is the great thing about property compared to stocks, isn't it? Stocks is not a guaranteed return. But is it retiring early? Is it to be the next Alan Sugar? What is driving you to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be the next Alan Sugar. I'm probably about the same height as him, but but I'm definitely not planning to be the next Alan Sugar. I mean, for me, it's literally it's being able to have freedom, because a bit of a caveat here. The company I work for is great, and I love the company I work for. But they know, I'm open with them, that they know it's not my retirement plan. It's not to work there till I retire. I want to be able to manage my own diary. So I want to be able to wake up. I still want to be busy and doing stuff, which is why I would love to be doing developments and, doing some, whether it's working with investors or working with, filming for YouTube. I still like to keep myself busy, but where I run my diary, if I need to have a day off, I can. I want to start at 6 a.m. one day, but then 11 a.m. the next day. Do you know what I mean? That kind of lifestyle. And I think that will come from just having the monthly income, the passive income, and then also doing sites, in order to build up cash as well.
Yeah.
So as I say, nothing too fancy. I mean, I would also, if I had enough money and further down the line, if I'd kind of achieved the goals I want to with property, I'd take that money and I might, invest that I'd love to invest in a business. I'm really into health and fitness, and the thought of owning a gym was incredibly appealing. And, or taking a business within an industry that could do with a bit of innovation. That's kind of, the gym industry is kind of going through that now, where people are being innovative, but could be anything, but like, a car garage, or, even some estate agencies really need bringing into the, 2020, but it's not happening. So to be able to go in and shake things up a bit would be quite interesting as well.
Sounds like a great answer to me. So next up, we're going to go through the pros and cons that you found so far with investing in property. So shall we go for the pros first of all? What would you say your 3 main pros you found so far in the time you've been investing in property?
Well, one of the main things for me is that it's like you've got multiple options with it. So if, obviously I don't want this to happen to my property, but if the tenant's left and I couldn't rent it out on a normal rental basis, I could put it on Airbnb because it's, near a certain football stadium within Liverpool. I could go into service accommodation, or I could then, if I wanted to, it's even though it's a 2-bed terrace, it's quite a large size one. With a rejig of the layout, you might pull 3 or 4 bedrooms out of it. Yeah. And therefore it could be a mini HMO, so it's not that I want to go down that route because I like to keep it passive, but I like the property has options, and that's the sort of properties that I like to buy as well, where they're not just, one thing. The other thing is just that, it's more, it's always income. If you buy into a stock, of course you do get dividends with some companies, but you're kind of investing in most stocks, you invest in that stock and you're hoping to see the growth. With property, you're investing in the property and you're hoping to see the growth, but in the meantime, you're getting the income from property as such. And also 3, I don't know, it's interesting. There's so many elements to property that of course there's a lot and it's quite overwhelming, but there's so many elements where you can get involved in, in buying, negotiating, refurbs, refinancing, there's so many parts to it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. It's like having another little mini business, isn't it, with property, which I've run businesses ever since I left school. So it excites me and I treat it as my little baby business, so I get that completely. So next up, we may be spoiling some of your future videos, so I'm apologetic. Right. What are your 3 biggest negatives so far since you've invested, sorry?
Well, to start with, when I first bought it, I don't know why, buying a buy-to-let, it felt different from buying a residential home. Because of the home, you're moving into it yourself and you're just so eager to get in there and you're paying the mortgage, so not much can go wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas when I bought a buy-to-let, and it was my first one, any newbies will kind of get this feeling, and that is that you experience so much self-doubt. Mm-hmm. So for the first bit for me was the stress, of have I made the right purchase? Have I bought in the right area? Is this right? Buying 5 hours away, and then, the stress of going through the purchase process and then buying it and it's sitting empty for the best part of a month because the agents were so slow in getting going, those sort of things. So that was the first thing really for me, was the stress at the beginning. But what I've come to realize is you kind of follow this stress curve. So you have a high levels of stress and then you kind of get past it and then you sort of come down again a bit and you're okay and you're ready to go again. But the next time you're ready to go, you've then dealt with what that stress felt like. So it's almost like you've taken your stress barrier up, and that first, it's no longer as stressful. I hope that makes sense. But
No, that's, yeah, perfectly.
so that was probably the first thing. Obviously, the second thing, as I say, working with agents, I would imagine, obviously, if you're closer, it's easier, but no matter whether you're close or far away, some agents are incredibly good. And of course, I've been one, so I know how hard the job is, how demanding and stressful that job is. But equally, there's some agents that they're horrendous and they're terrible. So that's obviously something that everyone should be aware of. Just try and be a nice person, try and find yourself a good agent and build that relationship. And then probably the third thing is, just when maintenance comes up, it does seem within the last few years that every time something comes out with property from the government, it's in order to make it more difficult. Whether it's the taxation, whether it's the rules and the regulations, they're trying to make it more and more difficult. But equally, I know that makes better landlords. But if things come up, for example, I've had some electrical work that needed to come up this year, and I was fully aware of it, to be honest with you. But the minute you then do that work, that wipes your profit out. So you've gone a month, or in one instance, within recent months, you've gone 2 months without any income from the property. So again, it's taking the good with the bad, isn't it? So
about that, and I think it's the most important point for us to really make clear in this video is it's not all good. I've got a bill for one of my flats at the moment, 11k, and I've got a stump up £11,000, and people think, oh, you just make money and you're going to Dubai and you're driving around in a Ferrari, but sometimes that's not always the case, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I can't complain now, knowing that you've spent 11k. I can't complain.
Yeah, it was. You could imagine my face when the bill came through the post. So unfortunately, that's and it's why. It's a whole nother video really, but it's why I'm so sort of keen on making sure you do have some form of emergency fund when I probably wouldn't even keep 11k, to be honest with you, usually. So luckily I've managed to get it elsewhere, but it's been a tough year. So that is all my questions done. I really appreciate you coming on and giving up your time for me. Do you mind just letting everyone know where they can find you? Because I would highly recommend go and check out Justin's stuff. I've really enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to more, but tell us where we can find you. Sorry.
Yeah, cheers, Gary. No, it's probably best is YouTube. If you want to get to know me and watch videos on what I've done and what I'm doing, everything I try and share, more or less every video has some kind of educational purpose behind it. So, find me just Justin Wilkins on YouTube, and then Instagram, and that's at Justin N Wilkins. They're my two platforms. I don't go off trying all of them. I just focus on two and try and nail those two, really. So, please, come watch my videos, drop me a comment, and I can answer any questions anyone ever has.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time today, mate.
Well, thanks for having me, Gary. Appreciate it.
Take care.